Oh, good day everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast, of course. A pretty solid win on Friday night against some very good opposition. So, a fun weekend all round for Crows fans, and plenty to talk about after our great win over Sydney up there. And who better to talk with me than the inimitable Big Man? How are you, sir? Oh, I do actually value what you're going to say, so I'll take you off mute. How are you, sir?
Oh, good, mate. I don't know what that word was that you used to describe me, but I'll take
Inimitable.
it anyway. Yeah, what does that mean?
It means unable to be imitated.
Oh, okay, so I'm one of a kind. Is that what you're saying?
You can go. You
Yeah,
can take it that way if you like.
Oh, all right, I'll take it that way. But no, what a win! What a win, Brownie. Fantastic.
yeah, bloody oath. It was a big Friday night at the Arca Bar, and watching us give the Swannies a bit of a touch up was fantastic.
I don't know what happened at the Arca. Thanks to everyone who joined us at the Arca. All one of you, Mike.
Mark,
Mark, that's right. We did have the Swans support group there, so we managed to see them off nicely. And by all reports, Brownie, you and I made a pretty good of account of ourselves. So if Crowcast people don't want to rock up and celebrate with us, well, I feel like they've missed out.
yeah, I think the next 10 hours were of celebration after the game finished were fantastic.
Oh, no, it was very good. So, look, and thanks to the people at Next Body Corporate Services as well for bringing us the Weekend Wrap and the Tuesday Night Live podcast as well. Of course, Next Body Corporate Services are the next generation of strata and community title management in South Australia. One flat fee, Brownie, no insurance commissions, and a high level of premium personal service. Can't really go wrong there, can you?
No, you could do worse than give them a try. Give them a call.
Absolutely. You can find them at www.nextbcs.com.au. Nathan on YouTube, thanks very much for your support, mate. What a win. It was so good being at the ground and giving it to the Swans fans after the filthy goal. I bet you it was too. Because when they came back, it looked like it might have been curtains for us, but fortunately, we were able to get the chocolates, and we're here to talk about it tonight, big man. And of course, we are live and interactive. So if you're in the Discord chat and you want to have your say, stick your hand up, and pardon me, we'll try and get you on. And as Nathan has already done, if you're on YouTube and you want to have your say and get your comment read out and discussed, stick a super chat in there, and we would love to do that for you. All right, well, without further ado, let me get my thinking hat on and get these graphics going, because we'll just quickly go through the weekend's results, I reckon. What do you reckon? Round 19. Was it round 19, Brady? I think it was.
Yeah.
Hard to remember. Oh, what have I done there? Ooh, it's hard work. Here we are. Geelong beat St Kilda's. Obviously, we beat Sydney. Fremantle over Port. Melbourne over North. Collingwood over Carlton. West Coast not getting up over Brisbane. Hawthorn smashing Richmond. And then today, I haven't got those scores up, but today, what did we have? We had the Suns going down to the Bulldogs, and inexplicably, the Giants going down to Essendon. How does that even happen? So our ladder looks like... Come on, ladder. There we are. Fremantle's still on top, fairway and top now. They won't lose that spot, you wouldn't have thought. Sydney in danger with 13 wins in second spot. Vulnerable, very much so. Hawthorn third, Brisbane fourth on 12 wins. Adelaide also 12 wins along with Melbourne. Adelaide just out of the top four on percentage. Western Bulldogs on 11, Collingwood on 10, making up the 8. Geelong and St Kilda in the wildcard spots. GWS not doing themselves any favours with that loss today. Carlton also on 8 wins, North on 8 wins, Gold Coast on 7, you reckon, out of the picture, along with Port, West Coast, Essendon and Richmond. So, we're right in the hunt for top 4, and you wouldn't have thought that pre-bye. But here we are, and you got to be in it to win it, and we're certainly in it at the moment, Brownie.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have thought so 2 weeks ago after that Port loss. You would have been thinking,
that's
"My
right.
God, where the hell are we at?" But yeah, that was just a really strong effort, and I think gives us a little bit of confidence. And yeah, I think some good things to come over the next few weeks. If we can get it right, we can put ourselves in a good position.
Well, big man, it's a long way to go, isn't it? We're still, it feels like we're sort of getting to the pointy end, but there's still 5 rounds, so a lot can happen in that time. But things certainly seem to be falling in our favour. Hawthorn probably going to get us, and Brisbane probably going to get us for top 4 spots. The one that I'm interested in is Sydney. I reckon Sydney are the ones that might actually, on current form, they're probably the weakest in the top 4 now, and they could actually drop out.
Possibly, yeah. A lot of them, and so much of it comes down to purely fixture and who plays the easy teams. And Hawks have a really good draw. They play Richmond this week. They play Essendon the following week. So they're pretty much locked for top 4, I think. Brisbane are hitting form at the right time of year, and they play the Power this week up in the Gabba, so that's another win, and they got a really high percentage as well. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to make the top 4, so we'll probably have to rely on, obviously, ourselves getting the job done. We'd have to likely win 4 of our last 5, but also Sydney to lose a couple, and hopefully, look, at the end of the day, if we win 4 of the next 5 and we don't make top 4, I still think that's pretty successful from where we started. We were 1-3 at the start of the year and a bit of a shambles. So it's been a great recovery, and the important thing is that we're getting wins against quality opposition, and now we've done it away as well. So I think that's a real feather in the cap.
Yeah, it is, and a harder draw this year than last year, and probably, definitely some more challenges from an injury perspective this year as well, Brownie, and a couple of tweaks in game plan required from the coach before we were able to really look like we were going to be competitive. So, I don't disagree with anything the big man said there, and I think, even if we finish in 5th spot, it gives us a first week home in the final, so that's not the end of the world either.
No, getting one home final would be a win after the start. And the good thing now is we've got a pretty healthy list, and we've got, potentially 4 or 5 guys. If we do get some injuries, we've got some quality to come in and replace them as well. So I think, we're looking pretty good. Just got to hope we don't take the foot off the throat, and we try and get these, like the games that should be easy wins. We're going to make sure we win them well. Starting this week, I think Collingwood, not an easy win, but we should be expecting to, to give them a bit of a touch up, not just be happy with a 5-point win. We should be giving them a bit more of a touch up.
Yeah, one of the commentators described the Collingwood game as a banana peel, and I thought that was a very appropriate description. It's one of those games that you could easily slip up on and lose all the advantage of having, busted your gut beating Sydney at their home deck. So we've really got to butter up again. Of course, we've got a couple of challenges, none more so than trying to get Darcy off what I think is a ridiculous 3-week suspension. Big man, I would be very interested in your thoughts.
Well, we discussed old mate Michael Christian not long ago, didn't we? And we went,
Yep.
I was told you how I felt about him, and nothing's changed. It's not all on him too, though. It's also just the whole rule itself, and how much is based on the result. If Cunningham doesn't get concussed and he's just a bit sore, chances are Fogg doesn't even get a week. And certainly we wouldn't be talking about it because it's mostly an incidental accident, contact to the head from a sloppy tackle. But I think what we all know deep down is that if this was a high-profile Victorian player, particularly from a certain black and white team, that either he wouldn't be getting this sort of suspension, or he would, and they'd get off at the tribunal. And obviously, I have very little faith in that happening for us, even if we do appeal. So it shits me. Like I saw an incident today. It was Kyle Langford in the last quarter against the Giants. He basically clipped Stephen Cannelli with a bump to the head with his elbow, and that was never mentioned again or at all on the commentary, even though Cannelli was on the deck for a bit. And I just think to myself, well, it's amazing how often these little moments we have get highlighted again and again by the media to the point where it was always going to result in that suspension.
And join the channel.
The Victorian media jumped on it straight away. He was actually called a thug by John Barnes. It was an act of thuggery.
But John Barnes is not thinking too clearly these days.
Oh no, I think is it John? It's whoever the Barnes is that writes for Herald Sun or whatever. It's a journo, not the one that played for Essendon. It might be a different Barnes. But he called him basically said it was an act of thuggery. At half time they were already going through it, on Fox Footy and stuff. It's so frustrating. It was trial by media essentially. He was already guilty before the game ended. We know that other clubs don't get that sort of treatment when they're from Victoria. It just shits me.
I had to finally find something to enjoy Rory Sloane about Brownie, and it was on his comments today on Sunday Footy Show, where he did actually stick up for Fogarty and said that the suspension was a bit ridiculous. Even Damien Barrett reckoned that we should defend it vigorously. Not that those opinions mean anything, but it was nice to actually see a little bit of a counterpunch from a different section of the media, because as Big Man pointed out, from the absolute moment it happened, there was no other narrative other than Fogarty should get 3 weeks. It's kind of crazy how paranoid the Victorian media are, and the Victorian football public in general are, how paranoid they are about an Adelaide team that's all of a sudden competitive. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, I think we also tend to get that kind of treatment even if we're not travelling well. But the thing with the Fogarty tackle, I think what people take umbrage to is he's got a really hard, fast swing of the arm when he goes to tackle. Now,
umbrage?
That's how
was that the word?
Tackles. That was the word. Yeah.
Yes.
So, a really hard tackle, which is how when he tackles normally, he really pushes the hand in and tries to make it hurt, as all good, players do. The fact that he misjudged and he hit him in the head, it wasn't ugly. That was his normal tackle that he just misjudged slightly. And the guy did drop a tiny bit at the same time as he started that tackle. So that probably had a bit of impact as well. But it clearly wasn't an act of thuggery. It was clearly just an act of misjudgment.
I'm not going to pull the Graham Corns if you haven't played football, but what I will say is that tackling with a swinging front arm is a skill, right? And it's a skill based on physics. So if I hold my arm out, Brownie, and just hold it straight, and you try to run through it, it's going to be as easy as anything for you to brush off my arm, right? But
right.
if I'm swinging it at you at the same point, that simple physics, all of a sudden that becomes far more difficult for you to get through. And when someone's trying to run through a tackle, it's taught that you've got to get aggressive, you've got to get your shoulder behind the tackle, and you've got to be moving forward into the tackle to minimise the opposition's chance of breaking the tackle. And it's just unfortunate that Fogarty rearranged Cunningham's haberdashery, because otherwise, yes, otherwise it would have just been a high tackle. But the simple fact of it is, it was a tackle that slipped high. You could argue that Cunningham dropped his knees a little bit. Probably a bit 50-50, I think, on that one. But at the very worst, it was a tackle that slipped high. Now, Cunningham's got a history of concussion, so he is susceptible to concussion. So, and that's not Fogarty's fault. So it's like saying someone bumps into Tommy McCartan and he gets a concussion, should be held responsible. Well, it's arguable that Tommy McCartan probably shouldn't be out there anymore. So, two things there. First of all, the trial by jury on the mainstream media, and also just the interpretation of the act in the first place. To me, those people that say it's striking, and I think it actually works in our favour that they did actually class it as striking rather than careless or reckless or whatever, because I think we can actually argue the definition, because it's not a strike.
Yep, I agree, but they're going to argue the opposite because it's an aggressive, fast arm movement. They're going to argue he's trying to coat hanger him, but I agree it wasn't. It was just the way he normally tackles in that situation.
And there's been other tackles. Like you see plenty of examples over the weekend of tackles very similar. Hawthorn used to tackle that way all the time. Like Buddy Franklin and Luke Hodge used to tackle that way all the time. You tackle to hurt, and the best way to stop a bloke trying to get through the tackle is to make sure that your momentum is going forward. And like I said before, that's just simple physics. So it's going to be very interesting to see, first of all, how it plays out at the appeals board, because it's gone straight there, hasn't it, big man? Or the tribunal, I should say, goes straight to the tribunal, doesn't it?
We haven't appealed yet. Like, we haven't said we're appealing yet, have we?
Oh, I thought Christian just sent. I thought if it goes over 3, is 3 and over, it goes straight to the thing.
No, that's 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, just following on from what you're saying, it's amazing the difference. We see it time and time again when a Victorian player does something that looks, like it could be a suspension. The commentators already go to bat for him and say, "Oh, look, you should get off." He didn't mean to do it. All those things we've seen time and time again, but we never get the same treatment. It's always, he's got to go. He's got to go. And it just it annoys me so much. Then I see guys like Jack Ginnivan, punching guys on the ground and all these thug acts and stuff that go on that get unpunished. You can even shove umpires now, unpunished. Yep. But a tackle that goes slightly wrong, it's just we don't have to talk any more about it. I think it's pretty obvious that it's bullshit, but it just riles me up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, mate. I kind of take a view now that it just shows you how paranoid the Victorians are about a strong Adelaide side, because I tell you what, they all just pile on the moment it's anything to do with Adelaide. And I actually think rather than getting down about it, we should wear it as a badge of honour, because imagine a so-called football powerhouse state like Victoria being so soft that any time little Adelaide pop up and become competitive, Victorians have got to manipulate and cry and carry on as much as they can just to try and put us so-called back in our box. So, let's wear it as a badge of honour, shall we?
Yeah, and look, just to add to that, the only positive is that if it stays, and I think it will probably stay, unfortunately, aside from this week, we probably wouldn't need him for the following 2 weeks anyway. But it just sucks for him personally, because his form has been so good the last month since the showdown, and hopefully he doesn't halt that momentum and he can get back and play the way he's playing, because he's really lifted his output. Yeah,
I'd love to do an analysis of the percentage of decisions in our favour per visit compared to the competition average. I reckon we'd be on that ladder, would be top of the table of suspensions or reports converted to suspensions, don't you?
Possibly. And the interesting thing I would say, Brown, is that for the most part, certainly in the recent memory, we rarely do actual dog thug acts, like really nasty stuff that warrants a suspension. Even this year, the ones we've copped have been from accidents, and I suppose Hillthorpe's the closest, but that was such light contact.
It was ridiculous.
Even go back, was it? No, go on.
No, I was going to say that just like the stuff that we see from other teams, particularly a certain brown and gold team, that's happened the last year and a half. That in comparison to ours, and yet no doubt we we get the much rawer end of the stick.
And a lot of the acts that where we get reported, they get blown out of all proportion. If you look at that one a few years ago with Shane McAdam when he got reported,
Oh
and
yeah,
he was clearly trying to do the right thing, and he still got boned, and it didn't matter. They just were gunning for him, and it didn't matter. We had a pretty good defense on that one, and it was pretty clear that he was pretty much an innocent victim in that one, and he couldn't have done anything else to change the circumstance. But they made up their mind he was going to be the sacrificial lamb, and the same as when I know with Rankin, they're playing that one pretty hard because they're trying to stamp it out. But I think the media went really hard on Rankin too from the Eastern States, and
yeah.
certainly didn't help.
Well, we'll play Billy Frampton this week, mate, and he's already been charged this year with knocking someone out and breaking someone's neck, and he didn't get a week for either in the end from appealing. So
Correct.
it's ridiculous how lopsided this competition is, boss.
Oh, look, as I said, it's a reflection on the mentality of the people running the show, that they're so bloody soft that as soon as little old Adelaide pops their head up, the city and the state that has lived rent free in Victoria's heads for so long, this is just the outcome of it. This sort of bullshit, and we just have to rise above it. And I just think it's hilarious. You know, I'm sick and tired of bleating about it because it's not going to change. But it's just a reflection on how much we live in Victorians' heads rent-free, that they take any opportunity at all to jump on us. So, yeah, that's fine. We can cop that. Now, let's have a look at the actual game because it was an absolute cracker, Brownie, and I would suggest possibly, I'm going to say our best win under Matthew Nix. What do you think?
Oh, I'm trying to think back. I think, yeah, given the importance of the game on our ending position at the end of the year, I think, and the fact that it was similarly a very important game for Sydney because they've been sort of dropped off a bit, and the fact that we've come out and we've got the job done under pretty tough circumstances. Yeah, it's probably going to be up there with our best game.
Yeah. Now my previously a beautiful work of art, being my score thing, has absolutely shat the bed. So I would just read the scores. I reckon Crowbot must have been out with us on Friday night, Brownie, and hasn't really recovered as well as he might have. It was Adelaide 13-9-87 getting up over Sydney 10-11-71 after the Swans fought back and headed us in the third. We just got on the turned the screws in the last and just smashed them in the end. One going away. Isaac Rankin 30 touches, Peatling 28, Jake Saligo and Miller 26 touches for the Swans. Heaney had 29, McCartan 26, Mills 25. Goal scorers for the Crows, we had Darcy with 4, we had Riley Thilthorpe with 2, Ranks, Rash, Neil Bullen, Nank, Toby, Lockie coming with 1. And for Sydney, Tom Papley had 4. And I hope that they don't count his metres gained stat or his metres travelled stat after he scored a goal, because it's the most anyone's ever run after scoring a goal, that bloke. Chad Warner with 2, James Rowbottom with 2, almost sunk us with 2 in a minute and a half in that late in the third. Logan McDonald got 1 as well as Braden Campbell. Brownie, I reckon the most pleasing thing about that, probably 2 things from my perspective. One is that you and I survived down at the Arkabar, and second of all, that after a fast start and then kind of, I wouldn't say we let them back in, they just sort of ground away and they got the better of a couple of things and were able to edge their way back into it. The fact that we were able to regroup in the last and just put them away the way that we did with aggressive football, I thought that was the most pleasing part of it.
Yeah, I think that the fact that once they got ahead, but it took them a quarter and a half to get there, and they were just grinding away, and you sort of had the feeling once they got to the lead, oh shit, we're in a bit of trouble here. Normally Adelaide would probably they'd get into their head a bit, and they get a bit nervous with the way they try to distribute the ball, and we'd probably have an honourable loss and lose by 2 or 3 goals. But the fact that we regrouped and we got aggressive, we kept pretty aggressive in the midfield, and I think our ability to get clearances, even though Grundy on stats Grundy dominated the hit outs, but I do think that McAndrew was pretty good at nullifying, and we were pretty good at reading the taps, and we were pretty. I thought we were pretty aggressive coming out of midfield, and I thought, we were taking a few chances, and our forwards, like in the last quarter, we just stepped up. Like Fogg just went to another level. Rash did what he's starting to do now. He's looking around. He's not just bombing away. He's looking for better options. And the fact that we had a really solid last quarter, and when the pressure was on, sort of 5 minutes from the end, we were able to hang on. We didn't let them get a cheap one over the back, and put us back under pressure. We just kept the pressure going, and I think when we play that pressure footy, we're at our best.
Yeah, interesting to see the contrast in the way the two teams played. If you look at some of the team stats, it was 258 to 201 kicks our way. Handball's fairly even, 152 to 151 their way. So we won the disposal count fairly comfortably. Our disposal efficiency, despite the conditions, was up around 70%. Metres gained, we were in front there, but it was how we did it. Because they certainly gained far more metres by hand than we did. We were minus 69 by hand, they were 531. But our kicking metres gained 5,800 to Sydney and 6,745 to Adelaide. Showed the difference in the way the two teams moved the ball, and I think under the conditions, even though we probably got a little bit cute at times through the middle part of the game, our intent to move the ball by foot, I think, was really key. Inside 50s, 59 to 56, but we did spend more time inside 50 or inside our forward half than they did. And one of the keys, of course, to our victory was our ability to turn the ball over in the forward half. We kicked 10 goals, 6 from forward half, and we got 9 goals, 4 from turnover, a lot of which happened in that forward half. So it was a really, really strong effort at getting the ball back off Sydney. And I felt like that, together with our ability to just smash them at ground level, 166 contested possessions to 149. We beat them in ground ball gets. We beat them comfortably in contested possessions post clearance. Contested marks, or marks in general, we were miles in front, 32 in front. Contested marks, we were also in front, 15 to 7. Intercept marks, 14 to 12. I just thought it was a real feature. We lost hit-outs, as you said, Brownie, but first possession percentage from hit-outs was actually in our favour, and our clearances 51 to 38. Centre clearances 13 apiece. And stoppage clearances where's stoppage clearances? Oh, it's not there, but obviously the difference that, so that's 28 to 15, 25. So some pretty good stats there, and it just showed the difference in the way the two teams tried to play, and I felt like our game under the conditions, big man, was more sustainable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I'm thinking back to there was a game we played against them in the NCG, and it might have been 22 or 23. It might be that game too where Sam Berry had his best, like one of his best games early in his career, and I remember him, Isaac Heaney gave to Berry multiple times. Like, got really nasty with him. It sort of asserted his authority, and And that's the sort of thing that a team like Sydney, they have a few of those guys, Heaney, Warner, Papley, and others, who like to get in your face and bully you a bit and be the alpha males of the ground. But we this time around we just said no, we're not having that. We wanted to own that deck, and the ferocity and hunt that we applied to both the ball and the man was so just stood out so much to me, particularly in that last quarter. As Brownie said, they were coming pretty hard in that third, and we couldn't quite go with them. But I reckon there was about a 5-minute period just at the end where we had the momentum back on our side. We just couldn't score. Cumming dropped that mark. It was a tough mark, admittedly. We had a couple of snaps on goal that just missed. But that felt like we had sort of wrestled things away again. And then to go on with it in that last quarter and just own the ball, whether it was in the midfield or obviously up forward, we just kept retaining the footy and getting on our terms. And we sort of bullied them out of the game, which I didn't expect, watching it. I didn't expect that to happen. So, God, what a great response for the boys. And that, to me, that shows maturity that we haven't seen a whole lot from this team ever, really, particularly in the last 5 years or so. And what a game to do it, in front of millions of people and whatnot. So pretty exciting, because I think that's the mentality you need for finals football, and hopefully we can bottle that up and use that when finals come around.
Well, what we are fast becoming known for, and I think it's well warranted, is our ability to pressure. And Brownie, it was just evident that it didn't matter the extent that Sydney increased their own pressure, and their pressure was elite at times. We just kept stepping up to another level. And I remember, partway through that third quarter, it was just an absolute arm wrestle for ascendancy, and neither team were willing to give that up. And it was really only Rowbottom with those couple of goals that kind of broke it open a bit for Sydney in the third. But it wasn't through lack of effort by the Crows and lack of pressure. And I wonder, when you look back at the replay, and I had a look, and you realise that McAndrew was off for 50% of that third quarter, and Geordie Dawson was off for quite a bit of that third quarter, and a couple of others. Whether we need to give the coaching staff some credit for just managing our players through the middle half of that game, because Dawson certainly got us going in the last, just with his sheer effort. And Lockie McAndrew, I think, had his best quarter against Brodie Grundy in the last two.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we definitely seemed to just have a bit more drive in that last quarter. And in terms of the tackling, it was great to see it wasn't just Sandberry, Show going hard at the tackle. It was Saligo tackled well. Rankin didn't have big tackle numbers, but he tackled bloody hard when he had the opportunity. Dawson was tackling well. I thought it was a really, really good team effort, and our tackling ability just enabled us to keep that ball in the forward 50 a lot more than we have in other weeks, and it just made it so much harder for Sydney to get any flow. Apart from that third quarter, I thought we really dominated the game.
Yeah. Before we get into individuals, the other thing that I noticed, and it's going to be interesting when we talk about next week, is just I felt like both ends of the ground, big man, looked better for the selections. I felt like we were a little bit more open, and defensively better in the forward 50 without Tex, and I felt like we're a little bit more dynamic coming out of the back half without Laird. And it just throws up a couple of questions, doesn't it, in terms of selection integrity?
Well, I think one thing that stood out to me, and this might not just be because of the structure of the team, but our forward 50 tackles, we had 21-5. So, yes, the game was wet for large periods, but that didn't seem to, didn't go with Sydney's effort. They only had 5. So to actually quadruple them in that measure tells me that, one, obviously we had the right mindset and intent, but also a bit more speed in that forward line to hunt the opposition. And that's particularly important against a team like Sydney with guys like Blakey, who, obviously provides so much run out of there.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that stood out. I mean, looks like we're going to likely have the choice taken out of our hands anyway, because yes, Tex comes back, but Fogg likely goes out. So that's probably a matter for a few weeks time to figure that one out. But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it all year. It's no offense to Lairdy, but how much does he offer us beyond his ground ball work? He's not particularly good defender. He doesn't have the speed he used to, and he obviously is a bit of a handbrake when he move out of the ball out of half back. And with Hall Kahan coming back in, didn't look out of place once again. Miller obviously playing particularly well, and I thought Max had a much improved game as well.
Max was the one Max was the one that I felt like, whether by coincidence or otherwise, looked like he benefited the most from the way we were set up defensively.
Yep.
It could have been coincidence, but Max probably had his best game for the season against Sydney.
Well, from an offensive point of view, absolutely. I think there's no doubt about that. And yeah, I mean, the Laird again. That's not. We have to worry about it for a few weeks still because of that ankle injury. But I mean, that one I think we've been talking about all year is that as much as Lairdy's had a fantastic career, I don't think we need him anymore.
No, I guess the
players
question
we got back there.
The question will be whether enough agates exist in the selection committee to pull that trigger, because that would be a big trigger to pull, Brownie.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is I think Nix will have the final say, and we all know his relationship with Lairdy. I think it unlikely he'd have the balls to do it, but gee, it did look so much better balanced, and we just looked a lot more proactive coming out of the fence. There wasn't that stagnation of holding the ball and chipping sideways. Very little of it. It was a really good look. So I'd love it to be something that we look for going forward. But yeah, we'll find out in a few weeks if Laddie does come good.
Actually, and again, Big Man will go through individuals shortly, but I actually felt like it was almost the best balance we've looked all season in terms of our selection. I felt like we got every selection pretty much right. I think having Toby Murray in as that chop out for Lockie McAndrew really helps Lockie, and I don't think Toby has been disgraced in the ruck contest. He can be a little bit ungainly at times, but I felt he acquitted himself pretty well in the ruck against both of their rucks, because he was up against Grundy for a period there, and managed to get on the end of a kick for a goal as well. And I liked that sort of setup. I liked, as I said, the configuration up forward and down back, and I would hope that barring injuries, we don't change that too much.
Yeah, Ibis is an interesting one, isn't he? I mean, I understand why he's in the team and the role he's there to play. I do wish we had a better version of Ibis, or at least in the current version of Ibis. Potentially going forward, he could still develop and improve as a player, of course. But
have many teams got a better version though as a second ruck? I think, like, when you look at it for output, like he gets his share of taps, and he'll bob up and kick a goal. I mean, for someone who's spending 50% time, or not even, say 30% time on ground, are we asking too much of him?
Oh, there would be some, absolutely. Like, I mean, I don't want to go through them all now because, like, I don't know. I have to do my research, but I can think of one that Brio obviously is one, but there's others as well. I'm not sliding him. I'm just saying that, I don't trust him yet. Is the one thing, and I agree he was quite good against McLean. I thought he really struggled against Grundy, but that's understandable. Unfortunately, in that third quarter, as you said, we left McAndrew on the bench to rest up for quite a bit, which meant that Murray was exposed a bit and probably had a bit to play with in terms of our lack of ability to control the ball around stoppage in that third quarter. But he's not terrible. Don't get me wrong. I think he's being judged quite harshly, and I'm doing that right now, to be fair. But for a team that's trying to contend, I'd like to think we probably have a better option than him, but we don't. The only other one is Finbar Maley. To be fair, he's playing well in the SANFL, but he's actually a worse ruckman. So,
well, the other in terms of ruckman, the other option we've got is Thilthorpe. He's probably the second best ruckman at the club. look, I think, like you mentioned, Freo, they've got Jackson, but I mean, that's a fair chunk of salary cap. That they're spending on a second row.
Oh no, I'm not even including Sean Darcy. I'm saying Jackson and Mason Cox. Mason Cox being the ibis for them.
The chop out, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps, but I mean, I don't know, Brownie. I'd happy to take your thoughts, and just before I do, I just thanks to Radicus for his contribution on YouTube. I feel like we are better placed than last year. Friday's game shows we can adjust the game when momentum changes. Damn, that showdown loss though too. And Brownie, I've said a couple of times to you, I reckon the Port loss might hurt us. But what do you think about Toby? Like, are we like 10 games in? I reckon he's like. I was surprised that he did as well as he did on Friday night, considering the conditions.
Yeah, I actually I can see where Big Man's coming from. That he's definitely not the finished product yet. But I do think he doesn't become the finished product playing in the twos. So if we want him to play that role, the biggest benefit we get from using him as a chop out is we don't have to use Rolly Thilthorpe.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. If Ibis, sorry, I was going to say, if Ibis was to go down with an injury, would you just then play Thilthorpe as a second ruck, or would you bring in Finbar?
I'd probably try depending if it was the week of the final or when. If we had a couple of weeks to try something, I'd probably persevere with Finbar because I do like, one, the risk of Thilthorpe getting injured in the ruck worries me, and two, I think when he starts to get up the ground to get ball, he's starting to get a bit of confidence. He's not using the ball probably quite as well, and he's not clunking the grabs quite as well at the moment. But if he can get up and get involved in the game, and he doesn't have to spend his energy on the up out in the ruck, I reckon we look better balanced with that. So I'd rather not see him used in that way if we can at all avoid it. I think if something happened to Toby Murray, in the last minor round game, it's probably too big a risk to try someone like Finbar in a final without having played for 10 weeks. But I do think if Toby stays fit, like he sneaks up and kicks a goal occasionally. He's not taking a lot of marks at the moment, but he did time some of his jumps and actually get a couple of clear hit outs against Grundy. So he wasn't shocking. I think he's a real project player.
It's hardly shocking. He had 14 hit outs.
Yeah, 14 hit outs I just think we can afford to have him in the side at the moment, definitely for the next 3 weeks, and he's only going to develop and get better. So I'd just persevere if it was me.
I think, Big Man, I'd actually give Finbar a go. I think the current configuration, even though I like Riley up the ground, I think the way things are at the moment, and with Riley just kind of sort of on the edge of breaking out into some decent form, I think giving McAndrew a chop out, even if it's for 5 minutes a quarter, with someone who can also take a mark and kick a goal if necessary, is probably a good way to use that last bench spot. And I'd probably go Finbar. What would you do?
Okay. Well, I do like the idea of what they're doing with that, that extra ruck to chop out, because more than anything, it's for McAndrew's benefit.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've seen the influence he's having this year with his, not just his ruck work, but his follow up and his ability to also now take marks around the ground. He's quite an important player for us. And if we can rest him up during games, and then he can have that sort of impact like he did in that fourth quarter, then you can see why we persist. And obviously there's the issue with Thilthorpe, but as Brownie said, if you have that extra ruck, then it lets him play full-time forward. So hopefully we can maximise that. And through, obviously him finding some form, and it looked like he found a little bit on the weekend.
Yeah. All right, look, why don't we go through... I don't think there's any... like you said, the tackles inside 50 was an amazing stat, and that's the one that I wonder whether it's influenced by Texas' absence, just allowing us to have one more mobile player up forward. and we're extremely good for a variety of reasons at keeping the ball in our forward half, and I think our tackle intensity inside that forward half was certainly a contributor, Brownie.
Oh, without doubt, yeah. And you never know how much of it, as you say, is the fact that it was a wet game and there's obviously going to be more tackles. But the difference between them in the forward 50 and us is a pretty stark contrast. So I think that extra bit of pace, and let's be honest, that's probably the biggest weakness we've noticed with Tex this year, apart from the fact that he sort of goes missing. He's not playing consistently every week. He is consistently like 20 meters from his opponent when they're running out of their defense, and he doesn't really have the pace to impact at all as soon as we lose possession. So I think there was definitely a massive benefit there. I don't think it's going to matter because I think he's going to keep playing, but it's good that we could see it at least.
Yeah. All right, let's have a look at some individuals because there were some pretty good performances and none better than Isaac. And I think, big man, the thing that is pleasing me about Isaac is that I've been quite vocal in saying that I didn't think he was more than a pinch-hitting mid because of his defensive actions. And over the last 3 weeks, he is becoming a far more, what I would say, complete midfielder. And if he continues on that trajectory, he could turn out to be one of the premier attacking midfielders in the competition. And it's all because of his application, 30 disposals, 11 kicks, 19 handballs. He took a mark, 3 tackles, 8 clearances, 268 metres gained. Pleasingly, 82% time on ground, so it wasn't as if he was slacking off on the bench or anything like that. He had 2 inside 50s, 2 centre clearances, 1 score involvement, 5 intercept possessions, 20 contested possessions. Spent a lot of time behind the ball, not in terms of in defence, but just not running forward. It seems to me that the way that they're using Rankin and Rochelle is that Rankin kind of clears out a little bit out of our forward 50 often, and that's Rochelle's domain. Big man, how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just here to talk about Rochelle, and I'm just getting flashbacks to last week. But
relax, man.
as for Isaac, I was a bit worried that he had a pretty ordinary tackle attempt in the first minute or so of the game, but no, he ended up having a pretty good game, didn't he? And I mean, I've been a bit more bullish on his midfield ability than you, although I do recognise that he's very much one way most of the time, anyway. And this was definitely better in that regard. His tackling intent was really quite good, particularly as the game wore on. And that tackle on Heaney when the game was still up for grabs was huge. So he should be really proud of that. But yeah, he's just got that those clean hands at stoppage, doesn't he? He swoops on the ball really easily. He's quite low to the ground, so he doesn't really fumble or overrun the ball very often. So that's one of the reasons he's actually our best contested ball player, and that's a couple of weeks now in a row where he's had high clearance numbers. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even his ball use I thought was better. He's still very handball happy, but overall, I think given the conditions, I thought he played pretty well to them. And I think we're seeing that he's a weapon for us in there. Even though I love him up forward, yeah, he's just got that natural. I don't know if it's midfield craft, but definitely around stoppage and around the ground stoppages, and then obviously what he does in the forward line at stoppage. He's probably the best forward line, inside 50 stoppage player in the comp. So he's just so quick to sweep on the ball and get the ball away. And I think that's something we probably don't have as much on it in our team as you'd like. So that's what I think he offers us.
So you're advocating for Josh Rochelle to get more midfield time now?
I say that?
No, that's what he heard.
Oh boy, let's not go down that route.
I was just checking in. That's all. Just checking in.
Scary areas, mate. You're dicing with.
Oh, relax. Brownie, I thought, I've never questioned Ranks' ability to hunt the ball and be, to go when he is required to go. But I just feel like his positioning and his ability to stay in the game has improved as a midfielder. He's looking more like a genuine midfielder and less like an opportunist midfielder now.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is his second and third efforts, which,
Mm.
when he's in attacking mode, he's basically, you don't see that. You just see he gets the ball or he doesn't. But his second and third efforts, his ability to try and, even if he didn't stop the possession, he made the possession less effective on the opposition.
Mm.
And his pressure was like, he just looked like a man possessed. His pressure was constant for the whole game. Um, and definitely has got more defensive intent than he had at the beginning of the year. The only thing I'd probably like to see his bloody kick to handball ratio sort of be slanted more towards kicks. But I think there's a bit of an unselfishness about him, and sometimes maybe he'd be better being. It's probably harder in a game like that because it was closely contested. It was wet. It was harder to get free. But in a normal game in a dry environment, I'd rather see him kicking the ball a bit more. I think he's got an elite kick. Um, but that's the only thing I'd like to see change. If he could keep up this mentality that he's got at the moment of just being hard at the ball and hard at the player, it would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yep. Now, I thought there were two keys in the first quarter to get us going. And the first guy was Wayne Miller, who I thought had a fantastic third quarter. I think from memories had over 10 posies or something like that in the first quarter, and really set the tone after the first couple of minutes when we were able to wrest control. And his attack on the ball, his use of the ball is excellent. He had 26 disposals, 23 kicks and 3 handballs, 12 marks, 4 tackles, 585 metres gained. Is exactly what you want from Miller. He had 3 inside 50s, 5 score involvements, and 5 intercept possessions. And he was a real prime mover for us, particularly early, Brownie, and just getting us going and getting us some run off halfback.
Yeah, no, he was unbelievable, and in a game like that, I think his strategy of just going by foot, like 90% of the time, is the perfect way to go. One, it's got to be about getting ground in the wet. That's it. Like generally, the best strategy is just about getting ground, but also the fact that he uses it so well, even in those kind of conditions, he's still hitting
Yeah.
targets. And also, he's just got that calmness that he makes the right decision. He just waits that little bit longer. He puts his eyes down and he makes sure he can either find someone or put it into a hole for someone to run onto. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a really good game. I mean, he had a few kicked on him, but I thought he still had a fantastic game.
Yeah. Yeah, and continues. I thought we'll talk about Hugo in a minute, big man. But I thought that between the two of them, they just really got some potential to be a dynamic duo off halfback. But Miller in particular gave us a good start.
Yeah, and as Brownie was alluding to, he lowers his eyes. So there's very rarely that blast kick out of defence. We see that from Laird. We see that a bit from Worrell as well, to be fair. But
Yeah.
but with Miller, he's so dangerous because he will take that extra moment to size up any short options that he can use, including those in the corridor. He does take risks. That's one thing he's done this year a lot more. And what I love about him too is the other side of his game. His defensive intent. He's standing under high balls. He's going back with the flight. He's copping some hits, but he's just such a well-rounded game at the moment. So he's not just all one-way traffic. He's actually doing it, but both sides of the game. I mean, we talk about it every week, but again, all Australian, surely. Even though he missed those couple of games, he's been elite pretty much every other game. This is the Miller that we've been wanting to see, isn't it? Yeah, he's not going on massive runs and dashes and everything like some, Wanganeen Miller does or Blakey does, but he has to be the coolest cucumber in defence in the AFL at the moment.
Yeah, it has to be in the team, even if it's on the bench. I know there's a couple of really good halfbacks in the comp, Impey and Nasai, as you say, although Nasai's probably more a midfielder this year, but the value and the impact that Miller has had for us this season has been really instrumental, I think, in us just getting back into it. The other bloke who I thought was really instrumental for us early was James Peatling. I thought he had a fantastic first quarter. Got tons of clearances in the first quarter and really got us going. And yes, he's a bit scrappy and messy with his disposal at times, but did not give up. And I thought his effort was great. 28 touches, 17 kicks, 11 handballs, 2 marks, 4 tackles, 7 clearances, 467 metres gained. He had 6 inside 50s. He's also one of those uncanny blokes that can draw a free with that little shrug, and we don't like it when other opposition does it, but JP can keep doing it for all I care. He got 6 frees, 4. 3 centre clearances, 4 score involvements, 6 intercept possessions, and 13 contested possessions. I thought he was a bit of a ball, Brownie, particularly early. Really got us motoring out of that middle.
Yeah, that was probably the first game I've seen him where he just didn't look like a workhorse. He was actively getting some really good proactive clearances.
Yeah.
And the biggest knock I've had on him, and probably you, is other games he'd been kicking around his body, just dump kicking. He actually was able to break free a contest, and actually he got on, like he was not finding a target, but he was kicking 45, bloody 50 metres into the forward line. Just long productive kicks in a game where getting ground was the most important thing anyway, and giving our small forwards a chance to get the crumb. He didn't do too many nothing kicks around his body. That was by far the best game, like midfielder's game, and he still did all the hard work and all the hard running and the tackling and the pressure acts. I think he had 7 tackles, didn't he? But just a really good game from him. That's probably as good a game as I've seen him in terms of maybe not stats, but in terms of productivity.
Yeah, I thought he was a bit more creative with his handball too, to release other players. Seemed just a bit more composed, and not as many blast kicks out of stoppage, which was really nice to see. And when he does that, he actually looks like a pretty competent AFL midfielder. Let's be honest. And I thought he was also really important that third quarter too, when the tide was against us. I thought he was one of the ones that was showing some real resistance.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, look, we got him for cheap as chips, basically. And I know it's been up and down. There's sometimes where we think, is he an AFL midfielder, or is he not quite up to the that standard? But I think he's had more good games than bad for us already. And his last few weeks in particular, I think we've seen a real uptick since that showdown, really. So hopefully, he continues it on, because he's becoming a really important core. And obviously, him and Berry really tightened the defensive side of that stoppage stuff that we do. It's not just Dawson laying tackles, it's Berry, it's Peatling. And we're making it hard now for opposition midfielders to have days out, which is not something that used to be the case. Midfielders used to run right against us, which doesn't happen too often anymore. Even Isaac, I know Warner was good, but his numbers weren't huge. He just had a good scoreboard impact. Heaney, yes, he got injured, but he wasn't going to have a huge game otherwise, I don't think. So it's been a nice change this year. I think that's one thing that I've really noticed.
Yeah, another person who I'd love to see get back to some sort of form, and it looked like he's just starting to work his way into some fitness and a little bit of form, and I just love his energy, and that's Jake Saligo. 26 disposals, 14 and 12. He had 3 marks, 7 tackles, 2 clearances, 243 metres gained. And what else do you have? 6 inside 50s for Jakey, 4 score involvements, 8 contested possessions. His disposal efficiency was down a bit, but I just love his hardness, Brownie, and his a bit of mongrel. And I just thought that he did really well to stay involved at key moments, and it's good to see him back, because I reckon we're better when he's playing well.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and that's the thing. We need more of that hard edge in our midfield, and I think that's what Rankin's given us the last few weeks. Saligo seems to be starting to get on the end of it a bit. That's probably the best numbers he's had this year, and in a really big game. But 7 tackles, he just doesn't stop trying. He's in their face all the time. I'd love him to get back to if he can get to that kind of form every week. Like our midfield just looks so much better, because we've got just so many more options now.
Mm.
Did you remember that handball he did? It was like I think it might have been the third quarter. It was at the right hand side of screen, and we set him up basically with a hospital hand pass, and he had to give this lightning quick hand pass. Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
And then that one he did in the last, to help that Crummy did to set up the Fogarty walking goal, the one that Rash gave up.
Yeah.
Like those things, you can't teach that stuff. And yeah, I think that was. I thought, gee, this is the most I've seen Saliga look like Jake Saliga this year. I think he does like the slop a bit. It seems to, obviously things slow down a little bit, which helps. Doesn't expose his lack of speed at the moment and explosiveness. But yeah, I really liked what I saw. Even though he's not playing midfield at all, really, I think he had 2 centre bounces. That's it. He's just getting around the ground a lot more and just looking more like himself.
Yeah, it's hard to know where he's playing. Is he playing high half forward? Is he playing a bit of wing? Like I don't know. It's a real run around kind of role, but he did get involved quite a bit. When he had nearly 80% time on ground, so he's not rolling off the bench much.
Definitely.
Now, I thought, speaking of wings, I thought, again, early Braden Cook was really good and got himself involved. And at key moments, Braden Cook is the one with ball in hand that you just think is going to make something happen. And he's turning into that player, Brownie, where he's an instigator, but he's also the guy that you want to be the last person to have ball in hand when we're delivering into 50. He had 23 disposals, 15 and 8 marks, 534 metres gained, which is excellent return for him. Where is he here? Where are you, Cookie? Where are you gone here? 4 inside 50s, 3 score involvements, 5 contested possession. But I think we see the difference with Braden depending on the type of game that we play. And we noticed in previous weeks, the last couple of weeks, Braden's been a bit down, but we've tended to drop into that long kicking sort of game. And I think it takes Braden out of the game. But in this sort of weather, with the type of game that we were playing, where we were using the ball by foot a lot, but not just bombing, I think it allows him to get into the game a bit more, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a couple of occasions just like where he delivered the ball inside 50, just weights his kick perfectly. Like I think there's one for Fog to run onto, and he just I reckon he's an elite ball user. The thing I love about him is his just his decision making. He doesn't panic in traffic, and his ability to tend to get that step going. I think he did at one occasion, took 2 steps to walk around a couple of players and then just use the ball well. Yeah, he just I think he's at a point now where he knows he belongs there, and he's starting to get that confidence that he's not. He doesn't get tackled very often. There were a few times earlier in the season where he maybe tried to do a bit too much, but I think he's starting to just get to the point where he knows when to get rid of it, when he can hang on to it and be a bit clever. And yeah, how many kicks did he have? About 20 odd. He was
23.
Touches,
well,
yeah,
15,
that's a bloody
15
solid
kicks.
game. You're not. Yeah, and you don't expect his kick ratio is always good, which I want to see because he's such an elite kick. But they're the kind of stats that if he's getting sort of 20 to 25, he's in the game. You're not really expecting him to get the big numbers. That's a really good return, and it's just the quality of those 23 which really stands out.
And just to add on to that, what I'm really happy is that he did have those couple of really quiet weeks, and instead of like probably thinking, oh shit, I'm going back to what I used to do, he's been able to respond now with 2 really strong games in a row, including Friday nights, which you typically think wet conditions wouldn't suit him, but he held his own more than in terms of those one-on-one contests or the competitive side of the game, which just speaks volumes as to how much he's improved in that regard, because he used to be a bit of a liability when the game got hot, but this year he's found the right balance between offense and defense, and he's a real part of this team going forward now. He's just turned 24. And we found our a gun wingman basically. I'm so wrapped for him, and I'm so happy now that he's able to find. He had a little blip there for a couple of weeks, but he's refound his mojo really quickly.
Well, and the other member of the candy shop is one that I think the selectors are going to have real trouble with, because Luton Curvis has put himself in the frame with a couple of really good games, and he's only getting better and better. And we do know that he's probably only in there at the bequeathment of Sir Laird. And 21 kicks, 21 touches, 13 kicks, and 8 handballs. Man, who is becoming a bit of a fabric of our side. And hard to see how they drop him out.
That's because you can't drop him out. He would need to spud it up for at least a couple of weeks straight now to do so, and even that I wouldn't consider it. I mean, we've been talking about this guy for a while now, haven't we? It sucks. It's so annoying that every year it seems like during the summer Nick gets amnesia and forgets that Nate's actually a really good player. So he always starts in the twos each year, and then he finds his way in it, and he never disappoints. And the great thing is now you can tell he really feels like he belongs. Yeah. So he used to be in and out.
He won the meat tray. You can't bloody drop him now.
Exactly. He spoke great too. That was a great little interview after the game.
That was good. Yeah.
Before you could tell that in the back of his mind, he was worried about making mistakes, and the coaches, obviously giving the coaches a reason to drop him. But he's just not doing that now. Yeah, he made 1 or 2 turnovers again on the weekend, but everyone did. The key thing is that he's making much better decisions. He's courageous as hell, and he's just got that flair too. That little sidestep he did running on the wing, and his clean hands. God, he was clean. In the way when others were fumbling, there was a few times even in defence, when under some considerable heat where he just didn't fumble it. One take, get it out, and
ran back too and copped his medicine a couple of times.
Yeah, yep. I mean, that was a nasty little knee to the head, wasn't it? But
there was a couple of times he went back with a flight.
Yeah. He's got a defensive element to his game too. He can wrap you up, he can take intercept marks and go back with a flight. And like I said, you can play him anywhere. He's got so many strings to his bow. So why would you drop him? I'm delighted for him too, because this is a guy that we've been pushing for a while now. And Brownie, this was last year. We were talking about him as well. We wanted him in the team, and he obviously lost his confidence, but he's full of it now.
Yeah, the thing is, it's been so obvious. Anyone that watches him can just see he's got a bit of class. He's just got that X factor, a bit like Braden Cook. He's got the X factor. It's just a matter of giving him enough of a run. And like you said, he belongs. He knows he belongs in the team now, and he does really good things at really important moments. He doesn't shit his pants, and that goal off a bloody one step, that was a crucial goal, and not many people would have done that. That was just in those conditions. That was just straight on the boot and straight through the middle. And he's kicked a couple of goals in the last few weeks that have been really crucial. And I just think he's an absolute quality animal. There's no way that he could be in a discussion for getting dropped. There's got to be 3 or 4 others that go before him, because him and Cookie just deserve to be there now. I don't think they should be in that conversation at all.
Going to be an interesting discussion when we get there. One bloke that isn't under discussion, apart from just being an absolute key to our performance now, is Josh Shelley, and didn't spend a huge amount of time outside of the forward line, big man, which would have pleased you, but of course...
No.
Bang.
But 18 touches, 13 kicks, 5 handballs, 2 marks, 3 tackles, 4 goal assists, spent 80% time on ground, obviously, because he's just running around up forward. Couple of inside 50s, 6 score involvements, though, which would have been a team high, I would imagine, along with Darcy. And 8 contested possessions as well. He did actually float through a little bit at times. But I really do think it seems to me that we're probably really utilising the two of them, Rankin and Rochelle, big man, in their respective sectors of the ground, and it feels like Rash has got a bit of the run of the ground up forward, and that allows Rankin to probably sit back a little bit and not get caught out defensively too much.
Well, if Miller is our best player spotting up targets coming out of defence, then Josh has to be our best player in the middle of the ground, spotting up targets, in the forward line. He's
little
inside
kick to-
50 or
Yeah.
yeah, the one to McAndrew, but there's others too. That left foot one to it might have been Fogg on the flank, and
No,
he
the little one, the little chip over the defender to, I think it was Riley, where he just lobbed it over like just a tiny little chip.
Oh yeah. I think that was Fogg too. Actually, I think about it.
It could have been Fogg actually. It was
It
fantastic.
was in the last quarter. It was the first of the Fogg goals.
Yeah.
He's got a beautiful touch now. I think Brownie was talking about it earlier, but he used to like really whack it on the boot and try and get maximum distance, and he would often hook it. But right now he's just placing it beautifully and he's waiting his kicks, and you'd love to lead to him.
Oh yeah.
And then he's just unselfishness around the goal face. We know he can kick some of these goals that he's handing off, but he's making sure of it and bringing other players into the game, and he just looks more and more like a leader out there, doesn't he? Really enjoying his work at the moment. It's funny, Kane Corns was talking about our star power, and he was mentioning, he says, I don't think the Crows have got many stars, many players you have to worry about, and he was listing them. He never listed Josh Rochelle, and Mark Bickley, of all people, had to correct him and tell him that Josh is actually playing a really good year. And I think he's actually, and I said this a bit last year, but I think it's even more the case now. He's underrated. He's gone from overrated to underrated. Because yes, he's not kicking as many goals as Nick Watson and some other forwards, but he's setting them up. He's creating chances out of nothing, and I really liked his game because yes, it was wet, but I still don't think it was absolutely suited to Rash that game, and he still managed to have a real impact. Didn't get massive amounts of the pill, but it felt like every time he got it, something good happened.
Yeah, and he's starting to get that balance between kicking the goal himself and knowing when to give off. Like that one he gave off to Fogg over the top of the hand.
Oh, that's beautiful.
2 years ago he would have tried to kick that for sure. And the one that he gave to McAndrew, that little deft little touch kick, he would have gone for that as well. Like he knows when there's someone in a better position and there's not a lot of risk to get it to him, then he's doing it. And the other thing I think he's also probably defending a bit better than he did last year. So I think he's got a much more rounded game now. Like he's in the conversation. Like he's an A grade forward. For Kane Corns to not list him as an A grader, he's a bloody muppet.
Oh, Kane's just taking the piss.
No, I think Kane legitimately forgot him because Kane forgets that we actually have good players.
I mean, why would you take any notice of anything that Kane's got to say about the Adelaide Crows? We know he's a bloody piss taker when it comes to the Crows, same as Kenny Hinkley. As much as Kenny Hinkley likes to come across as being balanced, he doesn't mind giving us a bit of a clip. I think, what did he say when Riley took that mark in the last quarter? Hinkley's first comment was, "Oh, that's the first mark he's taken since the first quarter." It's like, shut up, Ken. Go and coach Tasmania to 0 wins for the next 5 years. Anyway, all right, who else have we got here we're talking about? As we mentioned, I think Max had probably his best game for the year, had 17 touches, 9 and 8, 6 marks, 4 tackles, 308 metres gained. I just thought him and also Hugo went when they had to go, did some hard things when they needed to, even Josh Worrell for that matter. All our defenders did what they had to do when it was their turn. Not easy conditions. And, I felt like we just looked a lot more organised with the setup that we had and a lot more balanced. I wouldn't like a lot of changes, Brownie, to that setup, to be honest with you.
No, I've probably got to admit that, like, even with Borlase in the team, we did look balanced, and maybe I didn't notice his slowness because it was a wet game, but I thought he even did his job, and I do like that Paul Kahan and Miller are coming out of the defence. And Mike Lanny, that was probably the most proactive game he's played for a while. He was a lot more proactive last year, but he did look like he was trying to get meters gained. He was trying to break the lines and actually find a target. And he just looked a lot more confident. He hasn't quite looked himself this year, and that was by far the best game that he's had. And hopefully that'll give him a heap of confidence heading into the last bit of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I was going to say something and now I've forgotten it. Oh,
Always.
yes, worth mentioning Ball Ace because fair to say that on this podcast he's probably be the least favoured of all our key defensive players, but just keeps taking scalps and like you can't knock the guy. And you could question. I don't know why Curnow didn't try and move him around a little bit more during the course of the game, but when it's a one-on-one situation, he hasn't been beaten much this season, and that's all you can do. And do I still think he's the right bloke for that role? I don't know, but you can't. Like again, winning form's good form, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I did say that I think Butts would be a good matchup for Curnow, but I did also say that I think Borlase physically is actually quite similar to Curnow. Maybe not quite the speed, but his body shape, his strength levels. He's actually pretty good aerobically as well, like Curnow. So I still trusted Borlase if he was to play. And yes, the wet did help, as it helps any defender, but then like Fogg and Thilthorpe kicked 6 goals between them. And
Right.
so, Curnow didn't really have an excuse. And there was enough inside 50s there for Curnow to do some work. So yeah, credit to Borlase, that mark in the last, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That intercept mark. So as you said, winning form's good form, and he's one of our most informed defenders, probably one of the most informed key defenders in the comp. So he can't. It's pretty hard to drop that. He might have his challenges in the back half of the year. We're in finals. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he's not going anywhere for a bit now.
It's a credit to him, Brownie, isn't it? Like he's come from nowhere.
Yeah, and as you say, every time he's had a challenge, he's stepped up and done the job. So yeah, as much as I'm like you, didn't think he was probably the right fit, and I thought a couple of guys maybe should have been come into the team when we've had a couple of injuries, and he's doing everything he's being asked to do. So yeah, I'm with you. It gives him a pretty strong case to stay on the side at the moment.
Yeah, and probably some headaches coming up for our key defenders for selection, but good headaches to have. Look, I probably the only other person I'd probably comment on. There was a couple of people who were probably a little bit quieter. Was Dan Curtin was a little bit quieter. Geordie Dawson got a bit of the ball, but dropped a lot of marks and wasn't his best night by a foot. Only went about 56. Was key in the last early just to get us some movement forward. But fair to say, Brownie, like it was good to be able to win a game where we weren't relying on Dawson to have, 25 quality touches and 3 goals from outside 50.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the benefit, the positive was that he did get his hands on the ball in that last quarter and start a bit of momentum. But like he hardly had any really effective kicks for the whole game, and he couldn't clunk a mark really. Like his
Seemed
intent
to be
was good. He was
misjudging it a
working
lot.
hard. Yeah, yes, and just running under it or whatever. But and his hands didn't look quite as normally. It's just one grab, but that might have been the weather. Who knows? But he it was good to see that we actually had a pretty good midfield effort without him being dominant. Um, and and he's not going to do it every week anyway. We just got to accept that. But I was surprising how either he didn't have enough time to get a good kick away. He was seemed to be kicking under pressure a lot. That's just probably a result of the game. But no, it was still a solid effort. It wasn't his best game, but
Was talk about him struggling with a calf strain pre-game. So I don't know, big man, whether that might have slowed him down a touch, but it just looked a little bit, just 1% off his game, didn't he?
That's a concern, isn't it? He's had issues with his calves for basically since he's got here. He always seems to have an issue once or twice a year. So I hope that doesn't linger around. He might need a week off in the next few weeks if that's the case. But no, I agree. He was definitely a bit off. As you said, his judgment in the air. He was running under it a bit. He got caught a few times trying to get out of congestion.
Yeah.
handball into the opposition, little things like that. Just, he's normally such a slick player. But like Brownie said, and I didn't really think about this, but you're right. Like, there's been a few games this year probably where we wondered, gee, if we didn't have Dawson, how would we have won that? But because obviously Dawson's had these massive games this year, but yeah, he was important, but he was far from the best player and the most dominant force on the ground. We won that, with other players than him, and I think that's a really good thing to have, that we're not so reliant on him and that others step up. Whether that's in the midfield or just around the ground, probably speaks to how even our list is and how even the team performance was. There was no real passengers on Friday night.
Well, there's nothing better for team confidence than a few blokes on the peripheral, taking charge of a game and getting us over the line. And I think that gives a few blokes like Nankervis, etc., a bit of confidence that they're not just there making up the numbers; they can actually have a positive impact on the outcome. And that's really good to see. Another bloke, Sam Berry, probably a bit of I wouldn't say a down game from him, and he had a very, very good last quarter when the wits were cracking.
Yes,
but not the numbers that we're used to seeing from Sam. I reckon him and JP are becoming a very good 1-2 punch in that sort of in and under midfield grunt role. And we're probably lucky in some respects to have the ability to roll those two off, rotate those two. But it was JP's turn on Friday night. Of course, Riley Thilthorpe started the game with a dropped head, dropped mark, and I thought, oh, here we go again. But Brownie really started to assert himself after that, and I just felt we saw some glimpses of the beast of 2025.
Yeah, I think he said it even in the interview after the game. He just, they asked him about the body, and he seemed to say the body was good now. But he just said that gave him a little bit of confidence, being able to get on to the end of a few. And kicking that goal, I think in that last quarter, that was a crucial goal. I think that would have given him a heap of confidence because let's be honest, he has been struggling with his goal kicking. And to nail that one and he just flushed it. Under enormous pressure, would have done a lot for him. But he was starting to run at the ball and jump. He got to a few that he didn't clunk, but that was probably the conditions as well. But then he's just great when he's on the move. He's just got,
on the move. He was
really
really good.
Grab.
Yeah,
I thought
they ended up having two up against him half the time when the ball was coming in high. But when he could get on his skates a bit, I think he had the measure of them.
Yeah, and the fact that he's acknowledged he's starting to get a bit of confidence, I think he's also, when he's saying that, he's saying, I've got a fair bit more to come. And I think the timing could be good if he can form in final.
Yeah. And of course, we would be remiss not to mention the swinging arm Fogarty, who's just had a purple patch, as we mentioned at the outset, and again 20 touches, 14 kicks, 6 handballs, took 4 marks, kicked 4 goals, but also had 333 metres gained, which just shows his ability to get up the ground as well. He didn't come off the ground too much. He had 82% time on ground. He had 4 inside 50s. He had 6 score involvements, 11 contested possessions, and that's what we want to see from Darcy. And it's a bit of a shame that he's probably going to miss. You can't see him getting away with 0 games. I hope he just gets the 1, because I'd like to see him get some continuity before finals. But it's been a good little patch for him, hasn't it, big man?
It certainly has. 20 touches. How many times do you reckon he's done that in his career? Does Vardy have the information? Because I'd like to know. That seems, it wouldn't be too often if he has already. It might be a first time. I'm not sure. But that's very high end for him. God, he used to get single digits most of his career, early on in his career.
Well, that is the meat pie stat, 4 and 20.
Yep. But he's he played really well. As you said, he was moving around the ground, taking marks upfield. I was obviously having an impact in front of goals, and I mean, there'll be a lot of debate as to whether he's better without Tex or not. There's sometimes it's been the case where he has been better without Tex. Other times he hasn't stepped up. But I think I said last week I wanted to see him put it on obviously he played really well against Port, West Coast, and he was all right against Gold Coast. But I wanted to see him do it against a really good team, and he did it against the Swans. He was the main man there, so credit to him. And those kicks for goal were lovely too, just quietly. Like Phil thoughts were great, and so were Fogg's. Clutch moments from tough angles.
Yep.
Well, we know he can do that, but it's still such a glorious sight. He still surprises me how good he is with his set shot.
And it's not conventional. Like there's been a few great kicks for goal that have kicked with that bent knee, but more often than not, you associate great kicks of the ball with a straight leg, and it just flushes them all the time. It's like just so beautiful, but it's that bent knee always makes me twitch a little bit. Now we've got an old favourite of the podcast on to have a chat. More.Sir, we haven't seen you, mate, for ages. How you going?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, mate.
Hey, buddy.
Loud and clear.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to come on and say what a good win that was. And we always seem to play pretty well in the wet, don't we? Probably one of the best in the AFL playing in the wet.
Yeah, I was actually having this chat. Sorry, boss. I was just going to say, I was having this chat with Brownie before. It was actually, I agree that we do usually play well in the wet. We seem to like that. It suits our pressure game and the contested style. But I thought we actually dominated them in the air in the first quarter on Friday night. And once the rain hit, we lost that aerial ascendancy, which I think hurt us a bit. That was the one thing that surprised me, just how much better we were in the air than Sydney, where our contested marks were through the roof, particularly in the first quarter and a half. But I agree otherwise. Yeah, I think we're definitely a wet weather team at heart.
And I suppose you guys have heard the opinion that came from Jack Rewald this week about the Crows are a better team without Tex Walker. Do you agree with that or not? To me, I agree that actually we are a better team without Tex. He's just he can't run anymore, guys. I mean, I'm not really sure how they're going to go when we hit finals, but if Tex can't run, I don't think he should play. We need someone that can apply pressure in the forward line, and at the moment he just can't do that. He's just a bit too slow.
Look, normally I'd agree with you, mate, but considering you're saying that's what Jack Rewalt says, it makes me pause and reconsider just because he's such an idiot. Look, no, seriously though, I think I really, like I said at the beginning of the show, I really like the balance that we had up forward, and we seem to be a bit more agile at ground level, and we're able to apply more pressure at ground level. And it seemed like Thilthorpe and Fogarty had a little bit more room to move. We all know that Tex can have his purple patches and all the rest of it, but everyone, I don't think there'd be anyone who would disagree that defensively he's a liability now, Brownie, and it's going to be a big call. It's a blight on Modra call that Matthew Nix has got ahead of him with regards to what he does with Tex comes finals.
Yeah, I agree. I think, let him get his 700 and then maybe we try with that. And the problem is partly that he's slow, but the other problem is he tends to only play one good game every 3 or 4 weeks. Yet he seems to be naturally the focal point for people when they're coming inside 50. And I think that's great when he's on, but when he's not on, we're wasting a lot of the ball where Fogarty's working his ass off to make position and they just ignore him. And I think that's why the balance did look so much better this week, because I think Thilthorpe and Fogarty didn't get in each other's way. They seemed to work really well, and our running patterns seemed a lot better. And then when we lost the ball, our ability to keep it in with everyone being able to work and a bit more speed in the forward line was very noticeable. So yeah, I completely agree.
What do you reckon, Big
Would you
Man?
say you had a good game last week though?
No,
because
shit last week.
he had a good game last week. We're playing against traffic cones. Like Gold Coast had literally given up. So I don't know why people were saying it's like 5 goals. He kicked 5 goals or whoop-de-doo. Like it was a training drill last week.
Well, he didn't influence the result. I mean, he took his candy at the end of the game when Gold Coast were already gone on the bus. But he wasn't influential in getting us to that point. And I don't think he's been influential since the bye, really. Big man, do you see the selection committee having the agates to make a tough call?
No. No, I don't. But then again, I can't really speak because I'm also sort of conflicted myself on Tex. You know, I think back to that St Kilda game, round 6. We don't win that without Tex. So he's still capable, but there's no doubt as the season's wore on, he's become less and less effective. I mean, you don't have like 9 shots on goal, you know, even against the crap opposition if you're hopeless. So there's still a player there. Just, you know, I agree particularly with the defensive side of the game that he's just that bit off. And yeah, he's never been quick. Let's be honest with Tex. But when he was playing really good footy, you know, 3-4 years ago, he was actually laying some really good tackles and putting some pressure on. He's not capable of that anymore. And if he doesn't take the mark, you know, yes, sometimes he's able to follow up and get that nice handball out, but a lot of time he's just left in the dust. And that's a problem, you know, in the modern game because, you know, there's so much football that is about, you know, rebounding out of 50. And I'm not saying Fogg and Thilthorpe are great bloody chasers themselves, but there's definitely a difference with Tex just purely because he just doesn't have the ability to do so. So, but then he's got the IQ, he's got the footy smarts. Yes, you know, when he has the ball in his hands 8, 9, 10 times out of 10, he'll make the right decision. And I still think there's reason to play him. As you said, with Fogg out, we don't really have to make that call yet, but eventually we will. And that'll be a really interesting decision to make. Assuming injury doesn't force our hand, I probably wouldn't play him. But, you know, he's pretty handy to have there when Fogg's out. That's a pretty handy backup to have at least.
Oh, no doubt about it. If we have a look at, I don't know, have a look at Texas Cruise, season stats. Where are you? Of course, you're not there because you didn't bloody play, did you goose? One moment, please. Let's just have a look. Walker, here we are. I mean, his 2026 averages in terms of score involvements, he's averaging 5.7 score involvements a game, 262 metres gained. You know, less than 1 tackle inside 50, but that's not his core strength. 1.6 marks inside 50. You know, I mean, there's some stats that on the surface are quite handy. But I don't know whether they're enough to justify bringing him in where there's some deficit in his game. Do you know what I mean? I think we get those numbers from other players irrespective. And yes, I know Tex is a great field kick and he's got a huge footy IQ and all the rest of it. But I feel like the game has really turned into a territory game this season, and being able to force turnovers in your like forward of centre, Brownie, is quite invaluable. And I think having Tex there just allows an easy out for opponents.
They're going to have to make a tough call when it comes to Lairdy and Tex, and I just don't know that they're capable of making those tough calls. So I think what we think is a moot point. I think they've already got, you know, their favourite 23 locked away. It's just a matter of whether they're healthy or not.
Yeah, it's a big call, isn't it, big man? Because on the one hand, and Mordot, I haven't forgotten you there. Feel free to jump in at any time. But like on the one hand, does Matthew Nix and Nathan Van Bello want to be the coaches that deny Tex an opportunity for a fairy tale finish to his career. But on the other hand, do they want to be the coaches that actually, include blokes like Tex, and it costs us a fairy tale finish to the season? It's a fine line, isn't it? And I think it's one thing to be able to gift a bloke 700 goals and 300 games, and like, I'm not saying that they were gifted to Tex, but we're certainly pushing those things. It's another thing to keep a bloke in when there are better options to win a premiership, which has taken us so long to get back into contention with.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean,
from injury.
Yes. He actually was playing. He played a really good first half in the SNFL on the weekend.
I mean, they've got to bring him back in, surely.
Fog?
No, Pedler.
So yeah, like, would you bring him in for Fog, or you mean alongside Tex?
No,
you wouldn't bring him in for Fog. Bring him in for Neil Bullen, who was shit. Probably our biggest passenger, I thought.
Do you guys rate Benny Keys?
I think I rate him a little bit more than the other boys.
Yeah.
Because, well, look, at the end of the day, you're not the equal third or whatever it is goal assist player in the competition by chance. So he gets in the right spots. He's usually pretty clean on the deck. He's terrible overhead. We know that, and he's goal kicking waivers. But he does do quite a lot, and he's one of the big pressure players we do have in the forward line as well. So I like him, and if you gave me a choice between Keys and Neil Bullen, I'm probably taking Keys, as much as I think Neil Bullen's the smarter player. But yeah, I mean, I actually think Nibbler looked like he got caught a bit. I wouldn't be against having give him a rest this week,
100%,
and bringing Pedler in. That short break
tired.
again. Well, he's 30 years old now. He's played a lot of games in a row now too, even going back to Melbourne. So I don't know if they'd do that, but it's something I'd consider.
I just can't stand watching Ben Keys trying to mark a ball. I don't know. He just looks so uncoordinated when he's trying to mark the ball. Like, I hope we just kick it on the ground to him. Don't kick it in the air. Like, it's so annoying watching him trying to mark a ball.
Or don't kick it to him at all?
No, let's kick it on the ground. Like, I don't know. He just looks, I don't know. Like, he doesn't mark. He doesn't know how to mark a football.
He seems to be very, very.
He just loses it.
He seems to be very, very stiff-bodied, and it doesn't allow him to actually have free movement of his arms above his head. Like, it's very strange. The way he walks, he's got a very, very strange posture, and the way he runs, he's very upright, and like he's got a bloody rod up his bum, and I think that rod kind of stops him from lifting his arms up over his head because he can't do it. He just can't do it. But having said that, I felt like he gave us a lot more energy than Alex Neil-Bullen, who I actually felt was really disappointing and didn't cope with the pressure much at all on Friday night. At times waited for contact rather than trying to evade. It didn't seem to have any ability to get free to any great extent. And I felt like out of the three, Keys, Taylor, who I thought had a good game, when it mattered, and that great rundown that led to Nate's goal. I feel like Neil-Bullen is the one that's probably worthwhile pulling out for Pedler just to see what we get with that different configuration.
Yeah, but it feels like Alex Neil-Bullen and Keys are in the best 23, right? As we said before, right? They've got their favourites, and no matter what we say on here, I don't think they're going to change it. Nick's, he's not very creative, right? But maybe to think about T-Muzz, right? I don't know if you guys consider T-Muzz to be in our best, but he did some good things like that. Like when Taylor did that rundown tackle, and then Nankervis kicked that goal. Yes, he did the nice little block off to let Nank kick that goal. That was great. I don't know, he does a lot of good little things, Muzz, and No, I rate him. Like he takes some good marks up the wing as well. Like I reckon he does some really like small things that really impact the game. But he needs to take some more marks as well.
Thank you, mate. It's good to see you back, and we trust you'll stick with us again as we march towards premiership glory.
Well, you've predicted it, haven't you? You said we're going to win the cup this year. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say so many things, mate.
Okay.
It's hard to keep up
guys.
with all the bullshit. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Still got time if anyone else wants to come on and have their say, but great to have someone on to share their thoughts. Yeah, we might as well continue down the selection road because not a huge amount to worry about, Brandy, but a couple of key things. Obviously, assuming Fogarty is out, do you think it's just a straight text in for the 700 and be done with it and then let the cards fall as they may?
Yeah, I think we've got to get it out of the way. And like they rested him for more than just giving him a break. They rested him so he could do it on a home deck against Collingwood. So let's hope he gets the goal, because otherwise we're going to have to play him 2 weeks in a row anyway. But I'd like to get it out of the way. I think we owe him that, but I do think it'd be nice to see us give him another week off just to see how we function without him. That's going to be the issue this week, is as much as he might kick a couple of goals and get the 700 up, he is going to expose us when they're coming out of defence. They're going to be happy that Taylor Walker's there and not someone else. So, but I think that one's a definite. But I do like the idea of trying to get Lukey Pedler back in the team before finals. Like, we've got to do it at some point. I don't think it'll happen, but I think it'd be a smart move to get him in and give him a few games to try and get himself into some kind of form before we hit finals.
It's starting to get to crunch time on a few selections, big man. Good position to be in, but personally, I think Luke Pedler playing well is in my best 23, but we get a fair bit of Luke Pedler either not playing well or injured. So I wonder whether they want the certainty of Neil Bullen or Keys, for example, over the potential of Peds coming into the finals.
Yeah, it's a tough one with him because we're pretty flush with half forward types, and a lot of them are in pretty decent form. So it's sort of unless we do rest Neil Bullen, it's going to be pretty hard to drop someone. And then Archie as well, but Archie's not ready. Based on what I saw, he's got another week at least in his sample, which isn't the worst thing.
He may not figure in dispatches this year, Archie. I don't see how he comes up. I don't see how he comes up fitness wise.
Well, history says we're going to cup a few more injuries yet, so I'm sure he'll find a way in. But
I just from a match fitness perspective, he's so far behind the 8 ball.
It's a lot of footy to miss. There's no doubt about that. Hopefully he could have just he needs a big game at some stage in this sample before I pick him, I think. For his own benefit, not just for us. For his own, confidence levels. Because he's played a lot of AFL footy, but it's not easy just to come straight back in when you basically played 1 or 2 games before doing a 4-week hamstring like 3 times this year, basically. So that's gonna be. But in terms of Pedler, I agree. I think he's definitely going to be in the mix. I thought it was interesting that they rested Dowling for the second half. So I don't know if they have someone in mind that they're going to rest him for, or that was just he's just playing it safe. But I thought that was curious because they rested Cumming for the week prior, and he ended up coming. He ended up coming in for Tex. So something to watch there. I would prefer Pedler over Dowling, but just putting it out there. Brownie mentioned Tex has a rest in a few, at some stage before finals. I think the Freo game for that one. So get 3 games into Tex now, rest him up for that trip to Freo when Fog gets back, and then decide from there. But it's a 6-day break, but Collingwood come off the 5-day break, so they'll be making some changes. But aside from probably Tex for Fog, I'm not convinced we'll make any other changes, to be honest. Certainly not based on form anyway.
Brownie obviously doesn't think so either.
I missed that.
Just changes for next week.
Oh no, well, as I said, I think it'll be Tex. Definitely no changes in defence, and yeah, I'd love to see Pedler in, but I don't think they'll do it. I think they're just going to play it safe and stick to the status quo.
Honestly, wouldn't mind seeing them rest Geordie if he is carrying a bit of a niggle on that calf. I know it's Collingwood aren't pushovers by any stretch, but we need Jordan Dawson fit and firing for September, irrespective of where we finish on the ladder. Finishing top 4 but having Jordan Dawson unavailable in the finals would waste that top 4 spot, so it's not worth risking. So whether that's the decision with Dowling that they're going to give him a run and give Jordan a bit of a rest, who knows. Obviously Laird is a couple of weeks off yet, so we don't have to worry about him. Look, I think AMB deserves to be sat down, to be honest with you. I was terribly unimpressed with his game against Sydney. I didn't feel like there was any energy in his game whatsoever. And he's a bit of a handbrake on us as well, big man. He gets the ball in congestion, it always turns into a stoppage. Always turns into a stoppage.
Oh yeah, he's from the Rory Ackers, Brent Riley, Chase Jones group of players that can't break tackles. But in space or if he's got time to make a decision, he's usually pretty clever. I know he had that poor turnover on the weekend, but can't got him for too much. It was pretty hard in that game to consistently hit targets. His stats look good. He had that nice goal at the start, 17 touches. I mean, he's pretty consistent and always having doing his part, I guess. But to the eye, it just seemed like he was a bit down. So as you said, yeah, whether he needs a rest, if personally I'd love to bring in Pedler for him, but I suspect they'll look at it like it's Collingwood. We need the leadership and the experience against them because, no one's more bloody experienced than Collingwood. They've got so many old fellas and who know their way around a footy oval, and they probably think we need to match that sort of experience with their own. So I suspect he holds, but I wouldn't be against giving him a rest, knowing that he is going to come back, obviously.
Yeah. No other talk of any other injuries that I'm aware of from the game, which is really good considering how tough it was. So it looks like we'll have things mostly on our terms. So do we back up, big man? Are you confident that we get the job done against Collingwood?
Never confident against Collingwood. And I know we beat them at the G earlier this year, but round 1 can be a bit funny like that. We didn't even play particularly well that game. We just had a nice burst and then held on.
You're a bit down this week, big man.
Am I down?
Just a bit
Brownie, am I down?
No, I thought he's pretty positive about the Sydney game, but
yeah,
no.
I hate when we play Collingwood, Brownie. I hate it because they always get up for us and we always get up for them, but it's never a big win or a big loss. It's just, except for maybe the bloody final last year. That'd be interesting too. They expect some rank and talk during the year in the media and stuff. Hopefully he can handle that himself because I know Dad's going to cop it. It's his first game against Collingwood since the scandal. No Darcy Moore helps us, no doubt, because he usually has his way with Tex. I think Jeremy Howe's coming back in, but apparently they're going to consider resting a couple because of the 5-day break. So maybe Pendles or Sidebottom, guys that historically have had pretty good games against us. I mean, on paper, I trust us to win. I think we're the much better team overall, even though they've got some good role players. They really are still, Dacos orientated, plus, some other handy players like De Goey's obviously in great form. His brother, of course, is always a pretty handy player, but we like to think we get this one done. If we can beat Geelong on our home deck, I'm confident we can beat Collingwood. So I'll back us in. I hope the whole fog thing's not a distraction for us and we just get the job done. But it's funny, we've beaten Collingwood 2 of the last 3 times we've played them. I still feel like the monkeys on the back. I don't know why. I guess it's just years of losing to them as a Crows supporter. But how do you feel about it, boss?
Oh, look, to me, I always think where Collingwood going to get their score from. They kicked 90 against Carlton, but they don't seem to have a huge amount of firepower up forward. Their goal scorers this week came like Membry, who's probably been the one to hurt us a little bit in the past, but McStay's really flighty. McCreary just bobs up, Ned Logg just bobs up. I just feel like they're easily contained in terms of scoring, and I think we've got far more firepower in that regard. And as long as we keep our organised defence going, and we don't allow them to get on top too much in the midfield, I honestly think we should account for them quite comfortably. I think they are going backwards. Pendles is just slowing down a bit. Side bottom's just slowing down a bit. If you have a look, Pendlebury got 20 touches against Carlton. Side bottom got 15. Both of them under 10 kicks. They relied a lot from De Goey with 25 touches. Houston off half back. Huh?
Is that how you normally say it? De Goey?
Well, considering it's a Dutch name and I'm Dutch, I'm probably the authority on how you should say it.
Is that okay? All right. Is that actually how it's pronounced? I'll take your word for it.
Thank you. How do you?
How would you pronunciation, mate?
How would you like to say it?
I don't know, let's move on. I don't want another Rochelle midfield situation here. So
how would you like to? How would you like to pronounce it?
Goey is how every commentator pronounces it, so that's what we're used to.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't realise.
I never heard anyone say De Goey.
I'll put my hand up and say my mistake, just like Mac had put his hand up and said he got Cook wrong when he wrote him off. So.
Well, that's good. Wow, we're a bit sensitive tonight, you boys. Bloody hell. Bit sensitive tonight. So look, I don't know where they get their score from, to be honest. And I think we've got quite a bit of firepower. So I'm quite comfortable. All things considered, and of course, it's a funny game footy, but all things considered and form lines, etc., I think we get up fairly comfortably. Brownie, what do you think?
I'd be a lot happier if Buddy Fogarty was going to be out there, but I think that the couple of things we're going to need to do is I think we just have to put some time into Dacos and make someone just accountable. If we can keep him, under 30 possessions and just nullify his effectiveness, I think that'll go a long way to keeping us in the game. And if you looked at the way Collingwood moved the ball on the weekend, they're moving it really well with handball through the midfield. I thought it was as much Carlton's lack of pressure as their attacking flair. And I think if we bring the pressure, the same as we did against Sydney, I reckon, we should be able to beat them by 2 or 3 goals. I'm reluctant to say we're going to, wipe them off the park, but I reckon we should be able to get, reasonably comfortable kind of win as long as we bring that same pressure as we did on Thursday or Friday night.
That Carlton game was for a bloody rivalry that they built up as like the biggest rivalry in footy. It was a remarkably bruise-free game.
Yeah,
I was really hoping they'd get into each other more to make it harder for Collingwood this week, but there was really nothing to it. So I was a bit disappointed in that, and I'd be curious to know. I mean, I guess we have to ask a player this more than ourselves because we haven't been there in the AFL level. But would you think it's more difficult to have consecutive 6-day breaks or to come off a 5-day break?
Probably depends on the conditions of the game because we played in the wet and that was like raining pretty hard. It would have been pretty hard underfoot, like to run underfoot. So that could take its toll on us a bit. Whereas I don't think the Collingwood Carlton game was wet at all. So I think that would, and the fact that it wasn't a bruising encounter, it was really just like aerial ping pong. I don't think that would have taken a hell of a lot out of them. So I reckon we're probably a bit on the back foot after, like, one, the travel, and two, the playing on a really soggy deck in a really hardly contested game.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. Boss?
All good. No, I said my bit. I think we'll win comfortably. I don't share any of these concerns that you neurotic people are airing at the moment.
But you tipped us against Sydney, didn't you?
I may well have. I even
Yeah,
tipped us
so, I mean-
after. I even tipped us at 3/4 time, and
Wow.
yeah, missed out by a goal. I thought we'd win by 9.
You did
Yeah.
say would get smacked by Gold Coast as well, though. So
I did. I'm not always right. I'm not always right. I am human, big man.
oh,
You
they're
are-
bad. Did anyone watch them today? Gold Coast.
Nah.
They actually tried today, but they couldn't even hit target. So they're cooked. They're done.
I mean, it's a conversation for Tuesday night, but I'd be if I was Jordan Roughhead at the moment, I'd be looking through their list,
Yeah.
going, who can I lift? Because I reckon every man on that list would be gettable at the right price. Noah Anderson especially.
He's just chip scabbing at the moment. He's lost his bloody ability to win his own footy.
Well, him and Hardwick just don't get along. I think the problem with Hardwick is that if you have a look at his time at Richmond, it wasn't until they put a really good group around him that he was able to perform, and they really narrowed his focus. It took a lot of the peripheral stuff away. Whereas I think up in Gold Coast, he's a bit like, he's now considered a premiership coach. He considers himself a premiership coach, which means he probably doesn't think he needs that support. But I think that's actually a bit of a negative. I think him having to carry the load without a strong football board, like a Richmond Football Club board is got strong football culture in it, whereas Gold Coast maybe not so much. And I reckon that's why he's struggling. And I reckon that he's not the right coach. Not the right coach for up there.
Yeah, it's all gone a bit pear-shaped, doesn't it? Not that we really care, but
No.
yeah, it's just it's incredible, like, watching them this year compared to last year when they showed that fight against us and they got in our faces in that game we should have won in the Gold Coast. Now they're just a shell.
Well, I think last year they were trying to impress him. New coach, premiership coach, demands respect. He's probably put some demands on them, Brownie, and said, you're underperforming, and they've all gone, all right, we're going to dig in. But I reckon he could wear a bit thin after a while, Damien Hardwick.
I think he's a pretty divisive character, and I think if he doesn't like you, I think you learn pretty quick. Like, you look at the way the coach just got run out of there. Like, he was playing some pretty solid football for the Gold Coast, and he had a couple of down weeks, and he got on Hardwick's bad side, and he was gone. He'd made up his mind, and I think that kind of attitude, and I think maybe that is because I don't know if he's got enough strong people around him, even in the coaching box, like a senior sort of person there to sort of just maybe calm him down a bit and make him, like, he's just a really emotional kind of person, and he says what he thinks, and I don't know that young list can deal with it as well as maybe an older list. So yeah, I definitely don't think he's the right fit. If it means there are a few players that are going to be, potentially gettable, that might be a good thing.
Yeah,
Apparently King's
it's really
gone.
interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting to see the coaching space that, like, you see blokes like Stephen King doing so well at Melbourne, being a young coach with new ideas and just energising the list, whereas you get blokes like Clarkson and Hardwick who are kind of struggling, and yet they're the coaches of the last decade. It's a real interesting psychology piece, I reckon, about what type of coach fits what squad profile at what time. Is there a place for the Clarksons and the Hardwicks with a list like St Kilda, which is like probably underperforming or would a list like St Kilda benefit more from a fresh coach like Nigel Lappin or one of the other cast of thousands, Raleigh or someone like that? Just new ideas and a bit of a new lease of life. It's hard to know. I've always wondered how much is the coach and how much is the list manager. If you we're going terribly off tangent here, but it's interesting, Brownie. If you had to rate the importance, would you rate the person in charge of managing the squad over the coach in terms of ability to win a flag?
I think it's really hard to say, because I think the list manager is massively important early in the piece, but I think the coach is important, especially if it's a young list. I think the coach is extremely important. I think to get that out of him. If you look at when Scott went to Geelong, he had an experienced list. I know that he's ended up being a good coach, but I don't know how much he impacted that team in that year when they won the flag.
By his own admission, he said he didn't have to coach him.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think a coach, if he's got a young squad, he's probably going to be he's going to be more important to impact them, control their emotions, and all that kind of thing. So there's no real yes or no answer for that one. It depends on the makeup of the list, I think. But I do think the list manager is massively important in terms of having an eye for 3 or 4 years down the track. I don't think a list manager can necessarily impact that next year massively, but they can impact 3 or 4 years down the track.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, big man?
When you say list manager, you mean like the list manager, or do you actually recruit? You mean the recruiting manager? Because obviously they're different roles. I think the recruiting manager is just as important as anyone, almost.
Well, you look at a bloke like Stephen Wells, who was always so revered at Geelong, and you could argue that he had just as much of an impact on building that list and allowing Mark Thompson to get a flag as Bomber was, So I don't know. I think there's when I have a look at the squad evolution of a team like Hawthorn and that through their premiership years, and if you have a look at Brisbane now with their squad makeup. It takes a bit to get that right and balance salaries and balance expectations and all that sort of stuff. And I think that can become just as like, I don't think Chris Fagan needs to tell Brisbane how to play football. Those players know how to play football. So is he more important than the blokes that were in charge of getting that list together? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Because he inherited jinx, but because he inherited pretty a lot of the picks that had already been taken by the time he got there. 2017, 2018, and they were definitely things were a bit rough early on, but most of the building blocks of their premiership years were drafted in before Fagan got there. So did he arrive at the right time, or it was obviously a very good. Can't deny that.
You look at the Bulldogs when they won their flag. You look back at their list and how many like father sons and all that they got in the previous 3 or 4 years, and the picks that they got when they picked up, Bontempelli and those, and like that flag was made probably 4 or 5 years prior, just by 2 or 3 years of really, really good player selection, both at the draft and also on the trade table. So. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I won't carry on with that. But
no, okay, I'll finish off with this. I'll link it back to the Crows then. If Petrarca had chosen the Crows, and we had to give up, let's say, our pick last year and our first pick this year, do you think that would have been a wise decision by us, knowing what we know now, or do you think that we would have dodged a bullet, not getting him?
Look, I really rate Petrarca as a player. What I don't rate necessarily, what I'm seeing at the Suns, is how he's integrated with the rest of their midfield. So whether he was the right player for us is probably a different question than whether he was the right player for the Suns. Don't you reckon, Brownie?
Yeah, and there's also that question with how he's interacting with the coach there, and like there's a lot of unknowns. But I do think, yeah, that I don't think it's worked there. It looked like it was working for a few weeks, and it clearly doesn't look like it's working there. I think the fact that we, apart from Dawson, we didn't really have an experienced midfielder in our mix. I think there's more likelihood it probably would have worked. I think he's such a good player that it would have been a risk worth taking. That's for sure. Whether it was him or any of the other really experienced, I think that's what we were missing. And sure, we can get to that point without him, but we're probably 2 years away from our midfielders getting to
Yeah.
anywhere near that level. So I would have.
The one that would have
Yeah,
been
like
interesting for me is Oliver. I think watching Oliver run around for GWS now, and yes, he would have been a massive risk 2 years ago when he was realistically in our sights. But I do wish that we'd pulled the trigger on that one.
yeah, and the thing with Oliver is that he was cheap as chips. Whereas, as I
Yeah,
said,
exactly.
like when I'm talking about Petrarca, like I'm not arrogant enough to say that he wouldn't be in our best team. Of course, he would have. I'd say it's more that would the cost have been worth it? Knowing it would have been at least two first round picks. It would have cost to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing to think about. I've been surprised by his lack of ability to tackle. He doesn't lay tackles, and he's completely one way. And I suspect that's half the reason Harvick's actually pretty much moved him out of the midfield. He's playing him as a not permanent forward, but he's playing a lot more forward now than he was in the first month or so of the year. So yeah, it's just curious. I agree. He would have been a pretty good fit for us. I no doubt about that. If he bought into what we're trying to do and the way we want to play, but yeah, just it's interesting because it would have cost us quite a lot.
Yeah. Put it this way, I'm not disappointed in retrospect that Petrarca's not here. I think we've got the makings of a really good side, and yes, we're probably a bit of class away from having a gilt edge midfield. But then you see how Rankin's come on in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we've got the wild card of Rochelle if Big Man unleashes him at one stage, and Sid Draper hasn't been able to make an impact yet because his body's still getting ready, and Dan Curtin's left. Like, we've got a few pieces that could really impact and lift us to another level. In hindsight, I'm not disappointed that Petrarca didn't choose us. All right, gentlemen. Well, look, thanks. I think we better just leave it there. We're well over time, and we know that we have a tendency to do that, but we hope that everyone's been interested. Thanks for those who have come on from Discord tonight. It's been good to see a few people that we haven't seen for a while. Thanks also to those who have commented on YouTube and contributed with Super Chats. It's greatly appreciated. Of course, we will be back on Tuesday night with Macca for Tuesday Night Live, where I'm sure he will be absolutely kicking off about Darcy Fogarty getting 6 weeks at the tribunal after appeal. So look forward to that with his Hall of Flame. Until then, Brownie and Big Man, thank you very much for your company once again.
Thanks, boss.
Thanks, boss. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no worries at all. We will see everyone on Tuesday night. Until then, be good, stay safe. See you later.
Good night, everyone.
Yep.
Cheers.